Hi guys, today I'm telling you the story of my chronic illness journey over the past almost 3 years now, and my experiences that I've had with it, and how I have managed to get through all of the hard times. If you enjoy watching my videos, it would mean a whole lot if you'd like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Starting from the beginning, I had recently transferred to a public school from a charter school, and I was getting severely bullied a lot. And one day I got really faint in my science class, and I had my friend start to walk me to the nurse because I was seeing stars and my vision was getting very blacked out almost. And once we got there, I was sitting on the bench waiting to talk to the nurse. And this is from my friend's perspective from this point on. I slumped onto her shoulder kind of like this, and luckily she was able to catch me so I didn't fall, because I did kind of lean forward apparently. And once I came to, my face was all pale and I just was not doing well. And so the school nurse called my mom. My mom rushed from work to come see that I was okay. And the nurse recommended that we call 911. I was very opposed to that because I had a big fear of hospitals at the time, and I was kind of embarrassed as well. And so once the paramedics came, they checked my blood sugar. That was fine. And then they did pretty sure it's an EKG, and they noticed that I was really tachycardic and that there was some irregular rhythms. And so they recommended that I go to Children's Hospital Colorado. And we were like, why can't we just go to a regular hospital? And they're like, well, if it's something, it's best if you go to a children's hospital in case you have to be admitted, for example. They took me to the hospital, and that's when I had my first IV started without my mom. I was, for sure, yes, very anxious. But the paramedics did a great job of making sure I wasn't completely mortified. But once I got to the hospital, they ran tests, labs, did an EKG again, and they ultimately decided it was dehydration, gave me fluids, and sent me back home. And now we're reaching to the point where it was end of April. I was back at school, doing fine, and initially, the doctors also thought it was stress because they did know I was being bullied. And I also thought maybe she's just stressed. But I was back at school at that point. I was doing fine. I was still getting very dizzy when I would stand up, which I thought, it's just the dehydration that they were talking about. I should just drink more water and maybe eat some more. And so I was at school one day so it was the beginning end of April-ish that I ended up passing out again at school. I had that same friend walk me to the nurse's office, and I ended up passing out, falling on the floor this time. And when the paramedics came, I was still unconscious. They checked my blood sugar, apparently. They said that I didn't respond to the pain of the needle prick at all. I was out. And they took me to the hospital again. They ran tests again, and they're like, well, since this is the second time and you were out for more than 5 minutes, we need to admit you. And it was later at night, and I also had a migraine, and I was freaking out. My mom went home to grab our stuff, and I was alone in the ER having a little bit of a panic attack. But by the time my mom got back, they ended up getting me upstairs to a room, and that's when I started my first hospital stay, which was about 5 days, I think. And they did a CT of my brain. I think it was this first hospital stay that they did the MRI. They made sure I was safe enough to go home after the 5 days. I only had passed out 3 times when I was in the hospital, but then I had another episode. I was at a cardiology appointment right across the street from the Children's Hospital, and I passed out yet again. But the only thing that was different that time was when I came to, they noticed that I wasn't fully there. I was kind of out of it. I don't really remember this, but they took me to the hospital again, and this time they're like, let's do an EEG. And so when I was coming to, they were sticking little stickies on my head, and they got me up to a room again. And this stay was 10 days, I would say. And we're getting into May. I was in the hospital for May the 4th. I got the May the 4th Be With You Build-A-Bear, which was really cute. But they did brain MRI, EEG, and that's when I started passing out a lot more. I couldn't get out of bed without fainting, basically. I couldn't go to the bathroom without fainting. One day I even passed out 100 times. It was really scary, especially for my parents. I mean, it was a lot of stress for them, and it was a lot of stress for me. And we didn't have any, they weren't giving us any answers. They didn't know why. And so after that 10 days, they initially discharged me with my first wheelchair. And I just wasn't exactly happy about that at the time when I was still in the hospital, when they were teaching me how to use a wheelchair safely. And so they had a therapy dog, Salida, come by, which I hung out with her most of my hospital stays. And they sat her in the office chair. I will pull up a picture, probably just right over here. And she sat in that office chair while I pushed my chair down the hall. But it was really nice, and I had some of the best CNAs that helped me out. We even made little flowers, wooden flowers together in the craft room, which was fun. And it was nice having that little support system. But when I went home, I had more episodes, a lot more. I had to sleep in my parents' room. I couldn't get to go to the bathroom on my own. I lost all independence. And it was summertime. I was sad because I couldn't finish the rest off in my 7th grade. Yes, I was getting bullied, but I just hate missing out on things in general, and I get major FOMO. I will say it. And so I just was really sad. I didn't know what to do. My birthday was coming up, and it was a lot for me. And then I ended up having a couple more severe episodes that ended me up in the ER, but they didn't admit me because they're like, well, there's nothing more that we can do for you. And so I ended up getting sent to the adolescent medicine clinic, and we had to drive an hour just to get there. And that's when they ended up doing a poor man's tilt table test, where you go from laying to sitting to standing. And that's when they found out that I have POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And yet they're like, we've never really seen a case this bad where it's this limiting. And POTS was not really a new thing, but not like a recognized thing. And it honestly, it was kind of hard because in the beginning they were like, oh, it's just anxiety. She needs mental health care and treatment. And now saying that a doctor actually believes me was a whole thing. And that doctor ended up having POTS too. And so that definitely also helped. Back in August of 2023, that's when I started school again. I went to a different school. I went back with my wheelchair. After we got that diagnosis, little did we know that that was just the beginning of the next 3-ish years of downhill spiral. Back in August of 2023, that's when I started school again. I went to a different school. I went back with my wheelchair. And I ended up passing out a couple times at school. They had to send me home. It was their policy. And I ended up developing really bad mental health because of all the stuff that I was going through. And trigger warning for this next part, talk about mental health and suicide attempts. If you are triggered by this, I suggest that you skip the next portion of this. I ended up having an attempt at school that day. I was really just going through it. Kids weren't being the nicest about my disability. And I ended up having to go to the hospital, and they had to critically transport me up to the hospital up in Denver. And I was in the ICU for 2 days, and then they transferred me down to a step-down unit, and I ended up having to go to my first inpatient. And I don't want to go into detail about my mental health stuff because that's to talk for a different time, but it definitely impacted my chronic illness because it caused symptoms to flare up and you don't get adequate treatment when you're inpatient. But I ended up having those stays until 2024 May, when I got out of residential, that couldn't handle me because of my health issues for 2 weeks. And then that summer of 2024, my health was okay. And I was starting to get back to things that I loved to do. Except I was starting to have a lot of other weird symptoms. My joints would dislocate. I started having GI issues. And I started losing my hair. And we didn't know what that was about. And so we saw a GI doctor for my GI issues, rather, because GI doc. And they're like, we'll do a scope to see what's going on. That GI doctor never followed up with me. He just said, maybe change your diet. That's all he said before the scope. And after the scope, he never followed up with me. So we're getting into 2025. My health has gotten worse. I was more reliant on my wheelchair. And my GI issues have gotten worse. I had ER trips for severe migraines. And I was just having a lot of weird reactions. I got hives out of nowhere. Nothing really prompted that. And so we decided that it was time for me to get custom chairs. We talked to my PCP because my old chair was breaking down. And then she's like, we'll just run some tests just to see what's going on with everything that's going on with you. Nothing really showed up, rather, and I was tired of being in pain. I was in severe pain. Some days I couldn't even get out of bed. It was such bad pain. And so we went to this place that my therapist actually recommended because her partner actually also has EDS and goes to the same place. And the doctor's like, okay, because we were kind of suspecting EDS. I guess I didn't say that before, but we were suspecting EDS. And we were waiting a year to get into the genetics clinic at Children's Hospital. And we're like, I don't know how much longer I can wait. So we decided to go figure out some pain management. And she's like, oh, you're waiting for EDS genetic testing? We can do that here. And we're like, really? And is it going to take a year? And she's like, no, we can take the labs today. And so after that, got the genetic testing done. And a few weeks later, we found out that I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And there's really no definitive genetic test yet to prove it. It just rules out the other 12 of 13 subtypes that EDS has. And they do something called the Baton test to account for HEDS. And we're like, oh, another diagnosing. And we ended up doing a lot of research into it. And we're like, yeah, that explains a lot. And then my doctor was also sent a bunch of referrals out to GI, neuro, and just, I can't remember all of them, but it was really great. And so, after that EDS diagnosis, I felt uncertain. I felt unsure. I was like, this is the unknown. It started with fainting, and POTS and EDS tend to correlate. And since it's a genetic thing, we couldn't have known that I have it because I'm adopted. And we don't have any health history on my bio parents and family. So there was no way that we could have known that I had EDS. And it just sometimes feels frustrating because I wish I knew, but I don't. But we're getting into late 2025, early 2026 of this year. I have started IV hydration because my GI issues have caused me to not be able to retain any fluids that I put in my body. I can retain some, but not a lot. to sustain a healthy hydration. And so eventually they decided to put in a PICC line. I was really worried about it because it's big infection risk, but they're worried about scar tissue building up every week, and I wasn't able to get enough through just one hydration a week. And they had to use ultrasound to find my veins, which in turn they had to use a bigger needle to get to my veins because they do use an ultrasound, and that's what happens when you have ultrasound to get your IV every week. And so I ended up getting my PICC, and it's been going well with that. But overall, with the health stuff that I've encountered in the past 3 years, I've gotten multiple diagnoses that have kind of not ruined my life, but definitely have derailed some of my plans. I haven't really gone to school. I just have started doing online school in the past year and a half. I tried doing their in-person school. It didn't really work for me, unfortunately. And the diagnoses that I got were POTS, HEDS, gastroparesis, and we're looking into others, most likely MCAS, and it's just exhausting. And I think the main way that I got through all of this was community. And having, I've always been really resilient. And having best friends that have gotten me through this, mentors, therapists, my mom, my dad, my family have been really supportive. And just people understanding. And community, when you're going through things like this, is the most important thing that you could have. I mean, community has saved my life because I just know I'm not going through it alone. The thing I also do is I pray. I pray a lot. I just talk to God. I will pray every day, every night. It's not, I'll just talk to him. I will bring my worries to him. And that has really helped me. And just knowing I'm here for a reason. The amount of people I have helped, just so that other people aren't alone, I think is pretty cool. I've met some amazing people. These things, which sounds cliche, it happens for a reason. I didn't realize that at the beginning. I was pissed. I lost a lot of my friends because they're like, we don't want to be friends with you anymore. But I found community through all of this. I have learned some really valuable lessons. I've been helped by people. I have helped people. I have met some of the best people that I have ever met in my life. Coming up on 3 years of being disabled has taught me a lot. It has taught me that people can be very compassionate or quite the opposite. I have learned how to adapt. I've learned how to get through these things. And I do miss a lot of the things that I used to do, but I have found new passions. And I hope that my story inspires other people. So fellow disabled friends, please keep going. Please don't give up. If you're going through a really hard time right now, don't give up, please. You matter. No matter what people may have told you, you belong here in this world. You are important, you are loved, you are cared for. If you don't think that, I care about you. I'm pretty sure you have pets that will care about you. So, keep on fighting. The hard times will surely pass someday. Even if it does not feel like it. Even if it feels like things are coming to an end, just know you're not alone. Keep fighting for what you believe in. Keep fighting to be the good person that I know you are. I'm Natalie Meyer, and thank you for watching my story.